Good evening and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening, Wednesday the 22nd of April. It's all about people that Celtic. There is a bit of news coming out of in the media terms tonight. There is news that obviously we've spoken about James Forrest maybe getting a 1-year extension to finish off his career. The other news is that Luke McCowan, Celtic are looking to. I don't know how a lot of you might feel about this one, but Luke McCown is going to enter into extension talks as the summer rebuild starts. There are going to be a minimum of 7 players that Celtic will cash in on in the next transfer window. I think first off we'll start with Arne Engels. Arne Engels is the player that Celtic turned down 25 million for in the previous transfer window. There are rumours that his team, his agents and such like, have spoken to Lazio. There is speculation that it looks as if he might go to Lazio. Remember, Gustav Lagerbielke was about to go to Lazio, and Celtic pulled the plug on the deal. A shame for that lad. Where did he end up? Anyway. Will we get 25 million for him? I reckon there's more likely of it being in the region of 20 million for Arne Engels. And next up would be Daisen Maeda. Daisen Maeda, he will leave Celtic in the summer. He's been choking to leave Celtic for a while now. And I reckon that we'll get in the region of between 5 and 10 million for Daisen Maeda. I definitely don't think that we're going to get the big money that we may have got a few years ago. Tell me what you think of that. I'm just saying good evening to everyone in the chat. That is in the chat. Next up on the list of the Magnificent Seven, the 7 for sale. It's not the Magnificent Seven, it's the 7 for sale, isn't it? Next up would be Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny, who's currently enjoying himself down in Bolton. Bolton did try to, they did make a 500 grand offer for Johnny Kenny last summer. I think that anyone that comes into Celtic now, as in manager-wise, we'll look at the current players that we do have. Kelechi Iheanacho will be retained. Callum Osmond will be in the team. And does that leave Johnny Kenny really surplus to requirements? Will Celtic decide to cash in on the player? I mean, do you put him out on loan? Has he done enough away on his loan period to suggest that he could come back and be a great player for Celtic? Or is it just the case that, look, Johnny, you've tried your best, and ultimately another manager may want to go down a different route, having Callum Osmond sitting on the bench. And then next up would be a Scottish lad. Yes, Stephen Welsh. Stephen Welsh came through the system at Celtic, but he's been saying for a while that he did want away from Celtic. I think that when he finishes his season at Motherwell and he's been playing regular football, he doesn't want to come back and sit on the bench. There is no way that Stephen Welsh will entertain, at his age anyway, coming back to Celtic and playing on the bench. He's too good a football player to be sitting about on the bench doing absolutely nothing. And I think if any football player that wants a career in football will tell you they want to just play football on a daily basis. If James Boy is getting an extension, does that not give me a lot of confidence on recruitment on the right wing? I think one player that may be leaving as well would be Yang. Got to remember, Yang was sold he was sold in principle in the last summer. But we'll wait and see what happens in this one. And the next one up for me that will be for sale in the summer, if we can get it up. Haven't had Stephen Welsh. I reckon that we'll get 1 million for Stephen Welsh. So if you take the 20 million for Arne Engels, if you take around about 10 million for Daisen Maeda and 1 million for Stephen Welsh, that puts us at just a nice little tidy number around about 20 eight-ish, 20. Say we get 8 million for Dyson and 1 million for Stephen Welsh. That gives you 28 million. Johnny Kenny, what will you get for Johnny Kenny? There was an offer on the table for Johnny Kenny last summer for 500 grand. Now that he's proved himself as a first team player, I think that Johnny Kenny would at least, and the fact that he's went down and done it down south and he's scoring goals down there, I think Johnny Kenny would command a fee in the region of around about at least 1.5 million. When you look at the players that Celtic have brought in for similar amounts of cash, I would say maybe even more, because you're buying more than just prospect with Johnny Kenny now, aren't you? He's a full-fledged first-team player. He's playing backup striker at his current team. So you're talking at least a couple of million Celtic would want for Johnny Kenny. I think Kenny would be a good player if he was coached right and given time at Celtic. Just my opinion. Definitely keep Kenny. It is all about opinions, and I think that when the next manager comes in, if Johnny Kenny keeps on the good vein and form that he's having at his current club and brings that into pre-season, you never know what might happen. Johnny Kenny might still be in and around Celtic. Next up would be Big Rocky. Rocky that came in at Celtic. When did he come to Celtic? Jesus, must have been 2023 or something. Came in the same time as Gustav Lagerbielke and a lot of other players. There was 7 players brought in that summer. Yes, 7, or was it 8? 8 or 9, can't even remember. It was that long ago. But it was Brendan Rodgers. It was Brendan Rodgers' first season at Celtic, and he brought in Big Rocky, and then didn't play him. Really? Didn't fancy him as a player. And yeah, that's the end of the story. we move on. Next up is Lewis Palmer. Lewis Palmer, funnily enough, is wanted by Seville. Yes, he's wanted by Seville. Will Lewis Palmer finally get his dream? If you remember Lewis Palmer when he was at Celtic, he would spend more time thinking that he's some kind of Spanish superstar. Yeah, we'll just leave it there. Louis Palmer, he'll definitely be sold. There's a 3 million number on his head. So if we were to get 3 million for Rocky, 3 million for Gustav Lagerbielke, make that 6. Add another million and a bit on for Johnny Kenny. Add a million on for Stephen Welsh. Add 8 million for Dice Maida. That takes that to 16 million-ish. And then 20 million for Arne Engels. Not too bad. You're sitting at around about 36 million. How much did they then get for Rio Hatate? Because that is the one player who will be sold in the summer also. So it's crazy. Celtic could come in this summer with an income of around about £40 million. And that would be more than enough for the incoming manager. I wouldn't pay 500 for Kenny. Ooh, woof. I see the Foxes got relegated again. What a fail. Palma is another player being looked at by the Spanish teams apparently. How much for him? We want to recover the cost that we paid for him, and I think that was around about 3 million. Kenny was terrible. He can't finish. Big Rocky was. We'll leave that one there. Depending on how things pan out in the World Cup, do you think we could lose Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Trusty? Do you think that McGregor will go to Saudi? First one, Alistair Johnston, no. I don't think that we will lose him because he's been injured all season and you'd have to have a fantastic World Cup to do that. Cameron Carter-Vickers won't be at the World Cup because he's not fit. He won't be back until pre-season, so there's no chance of that happening. Trusty's going to the World Cup. Could we get an offer in for Austin Trusty? You never know. You never know. But something tells me that won't happen. Our boy from Brazil is in. And apologies for not getting back to you today, mate. Through Facebook, I was pretty busy with work stuff today, so I wasn't really on Facebook. Everything that was on the Facebook page had been pre-scheduled and put up. Then he did mention a coach that we could maybe get. That's the wrong Facebook page. See, it's just totally done it. Yes, Tobias. When was the player that you? The manager. I know a guy, Isli Garcia. He's Venezuelan. He's a good player. But he punched a player in the stomach recently. Sign him for Celtic because we need that kind of player. The coach suggestion was Felipe Luis. Louis. It's a bit like French kiss, that one. Little Louis. Great if Celtic signed him as a coach. We could sign him once Martin O'Neill's gone. Did say our friend from Brazil. Brazil guy back here. I would like to say to you all something I've already said to the host of the channel. Player suggestion, Venezuelan player, and he's plays a good Brazilian team. And there you go. Will Celtic be go down the South American route again? Lager was sold. Yeah, he was. He was sold for far too little money, as always. Is Lavker Belki on our books? Nope. He was sold, unfortunately. Balak Wisher, 10 million. Have you found some pesetas down the back of your couch that you're wanting shot off? Because there's no way you're getting 10 million euros or even 10 million pesetas. You're not even getting 10 pesetas for Balak Wisher. Tonight, going to spew, bored all smiles, seeing the pound signs. It's a bit of a reality check for where the players. I mean, we all know that it's going to be a massive summer for the manager, whoever the manager is. And, but we'll wait and see. I thought we knocked back a big offer for Trusty in January. I don't think we did. I'm not too sure on that one. Sure, if we did, someone will correct me. The problem is still going to be the same, Baz. The charlatans that are still in control, the people might change, but the club ain't while they are still here, sadly, in my opinion. I think that the club won't stand still. 10 potatoes for Balak Wisher. I don't think that the club will stand still. Anytime that the club has, we know that we need to improve. We know that we're going into a summer which is similar to the summer that we went into in 2021 after we lost out on the 10 in a row. This is another summer where there are a lot of players that are going to be leaving the club, and we know that. And a new manager will want to be given a free rein, a clean slate. When Brendan Rodgers came back to Celtic, he was taking over Ange Postecoglou's team. When the next manager comes in, there'll be a lot of players that are here on loan that will all disappear. And then there will be players that are coming to the end of their natural journey at Celtic. And then there'll be the player that you want to cash in on. And I think that the player that we will cash in on in this transfer window will be Arne Engels. The big question is, if an offer was to come in for Balak Wisher, would Celtic take it? No, it's not. It's the Benji Negrin one. I think that when you look at Benji Negrin and the goals that he has scored, and the fact that he hasn't been here that long, I think that he's one player that Celtic will want to retain in this upcoming summer. So big Brucey, but it's always disappointing. Yeah, Mr. Disappointing is looking for a new club. James Forrest must go to Tav and go, mate, many medals did you win? Is that it? James is walking along some like he's been at it since the Vietnam War. Medals coming off his shoulders. Anyway, right, give me your thoughts on that, and give me your thoughts on Luke McCowan. There's lots of headlines on Celtic media type saying that Luke McCowan is going to be offered transfer talks for an extension. 28-year-old is in the final year of his contract. God, is that the final year of his contract already? Can you remember when Luke McCowan signed for Celtic? The smile on that laddie's face when it was the last one at night, wasn't it? Right on the end of the transfer window. We all thought it was done and dusted. We were all going to our bed. Some of us had even finished the live, and the lights were still on at Celtic Park, or they came back on, and Luke McCowan was paraded way after midnight, but the deal was already done. Do we need to sell Engels if we had this other's Deadwood to sell first? I think that Engels will be sold. His head was turned. You know, when you look back at his performances after Celtic's knocked back the 25 million for him, or was it 20 million ish? Do you know what I mean? It was 25 plus, it was 20 plus add ons that went up to 25. When you look at the money that would be involved for him as a player, unless Celtic go into this summer and say to Arne Engels, look, we're going to give you a massive. Listen, if Lazio come calling, Engels will make sure that he goes. It's as simple as that. Lazio come calling, any club on Europe, Arne Engels will be going, yep, came, saw, I won some stuff, played in Scottish football. It's an okay league. Celtic are fantastic, but the clubs around about them are shite. I'm away to play some decent football. That's what he'll say. How many Scottish players do we need the team first? Ooh, he's like a Soviet general with all of the medals he's won. And he won them all in Afghanistan. And he was shooting down the poppies. Oh, I'm going to get so much hate for that one. Was that a 3-year contract for Luke? I think it must have been. Not really sure. No way should McCowan be given a deal. He's only had 5 decent games all season. Who's offering all these improved contract? Martin O'Neill. What if the next manager doesn't want them? Has disaster written all over it. Every team has a core of team players, don't know, and when you look at the likes of James Forrest and even Luke McCowan, because if you're going to lose, here's the argument for keeping Luke McCowan. If you're going to lose a Scottish defender in Stephen Welsh was needed for the European numbers. It's the only time Stephen Welsh was really there. It was in about the European games, wasn't it? So Celtic will need to bring in another Scottish player at least. So yeah, that's who's offering the contracts. Martin O'Neill says that he's advising the board to give James a new contract. But it's like you say, maybe the next manager, like when it comes to a club legend, there's not many managers in the game apart from Wilfred Nancy, who had no idea who James Forrest was when he met him. Thought he was some youth development kid making up the numbers in the gym. You know, what you doing, lad? I'm injured. You don't know who I'm do you, mate? You just didn't know who I'm do you? Anyway, that was a poor James Forrest. I'm just reading some of the clause. But as we need 8 Scottish players for Europe, yep, and I'm sure Celtic will sort that out somehow. Listen, if you've got why are we even worrying about Europe? Why are we even worrying about Europe? Next season will not be. Europe should be the last thing that we are worrying about next year. I don't expect. If you think that this year was bad in Europe, I don't expect us to do anything. I would actually be glad if we didn't even qualify for Europe next year, and maybe give the club up the kick up the ass that it needs. But we'll wait and see. I honestly think if we win this league, we'll appoint a big name manager and we'll have money to spend in the summer. If not, we'll get the Motherwell manager and another loan or free agent season. Be careful what you wish for, as they say. Does Benji Negron start as a stronger Celtic side, and does it start at the same goal, have influence with better players? I think that Benji Negron, in all honesty, has maybe got one more background, one more season left in him, and then he'll go into the background and be sold. Also, some background on Felipe Luis. He was a former flamenco coach. Even won the South American Champions League. Oh, we've got bad rep with that when you talk about managers getting to the Champions League, because Wilfred Nancy got to the American version of the Champions League. Do you know? So we'll wait and see. Whatever manager comes in will be told who he's signing, like the previous managers were. This is true. Just saying that this is the rules. Yeah, and it's the rules. We'll probably bring out some youth kids to play it for it. Is Robertson coming? No idea. We'll more than likely end up with them. Got a better tan than Baz, the west coast of Scotland. So that's because you want sunburn, mate. And I don't sit out in the sun, really. Anyway, that's me. It's just a short one for tonight. I do have a little bit of information for you tomorrow morning about, I'm going to tell you, and it's about the standing section. That's all that I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave it for tomorrow morning. So watch out for the video first thing in the morning, where we can give you an update on standing sections and stuff at Celtic Park.